Hello, folks. Welcome to the MMOA podcast brought to you by the Institute of Clinical Excellence. My name is Dustin Jones, one of the faculty within the older adult division, and we've got a very special episode today. We've got a legend in the field of physical therapy. I know you may not perceive yourself as that, Mike, but definitely in the MMOA realm, a very prominent name, a prominent clinician, educator, someone that we've all learned a ton from, and I'm excited to have this conversation with Mike. I'll let him do an intro here in a second, but from my angle, Mike, I view you as someone that you get your hands dirty still. You're a very critical thinker, but I think you've really pushed boundaries in terms of how we can serve folks in so many different areas. I think about the public health standpoint, the focus on movement and physical activity. But I think one of the most tangible ones for me is your literature and education around balance training and multitasking, dual tasking, of how we can create more similar real life scenarios for folks in the home and the clinic, wherever we're treating folks, to tangibly improve their lives. So you just had such a huge impact on a lot of us that teach, at MMOA, but then a lot of people that are going to watch and listen to this. And you've really taken, a lot of your work and distilled it into this amazing book called The Brain That Chooses Itself. And we're going to talk a lot about that. But I want Mike to give you the opportunity for folks that may not be aware of you and your work. Could you give them kind of the quick and dirty of your pretty epic career, up to this point?
Yeah. Dustin, thank you. The first reason why I would have to push back against the marker label as a legend is that I'm not done yet.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Time for a lifetime achievement award when I still feel like I want to see patients for the next 30 days.
Yes.
I'll tell you just very briefly, been a physical therapist for 33 years, hope to do so for, like I said, another 30, mostly in the neurologic sector, which causes me to be more in the geriatric sector as well. Coined a term known as geriathletes in 2007, which I now have become. I'm over 55. We'll leave it at that. Maybe I actually consider myself a very average person with a superior work ethic. I sleep very little, work a lot, love everything that I do. And maybe if I have any skill whatsoever within the clinic is that I'm willing to listen to people and leverage the information that they tell me.
I love that. I love that. So this book, I'm curious. I want to hear, so The Brain That Chooses Itself, personalized strategies to extend your health span. What was the primary driver to do something like this? Because, and we'll be dropping all kinds of links in the show notes, but Mike has created so much content for such a long period of time consistently on the internet, provides continuing education, several different courses. I'm curious, what was kind of the motivator behind this kind of huge project? Because I've never written a book, but I'm starting to get somewhat of an idea of what it would take, and very intimidating. But I'm curious to hear, how you got to that point of like, I need to get this together into one piece of work.
Dustin, I appreciate the question very much. I'll tell you that there are so many different avenues of health span and lifespan information that are now coalescing to us through journal, through podcast, through video form, through book form, etc. There are plenty of people saying what I can say, and are many of which more qualified than me to say these things. I believe that there was an essential through line that has been missing in all of these. And I'll say two things. First off, no one brings all of this together into one curated form. All right. So you could listen to, 27 episodes on Andrew Huberman and 22 on Peter Attia and Rhonda, Patrick and many others. And you could read books and follow people on Instagram. But I wanted to have one resource for people. That's the first one. The second thing is I believe that there is a through line that's missing in all of them, and that is the difference between tell you what you need to do, tell you what you have to do, guilt you into not doing the right thing versus leveraging choice. And when we leverage choice, you and I both know that every outcome we could possibly have in any intervention, surgical, physical therapy, medication, supplement, etc., choice has a substantiated basis in belief. And nobody's talking about, let's give these people the information in multiple different options and variables and let them choose what levers to pull within any sector or not to pull any levers in one sector entirely. Physical activity is not for me. I'll operationalize everything I can in nutrition and social activity. Oh my gosh, I can actually help my health span by eating differently, communicating with people and sleeping a little bit better. I don't have to do everything you're telling me to do or take this pill.
Man. And I think most people watching, listening, and myself as well, I think we've all felt that in the sense of we watch or listen to the Huberman episode or read Peter Attia's book, for example, and the result is a lot of knowledge, but it's also a very unrealistic to-do list.
Yeah.
That we have these aspirations and, we're coming up on the new year, right? For, January 2025,
Right.
where people are going to list out the 12 different habits that they're, boom, automatically going to instill.
Exactly.
And yeah, February comes around, or probably the second week of January, to be honest. And we've fallen off the wagon. And so that sense of choice is really intriguing. How do you structure that in a book? So what does that tangibly look like when you're implementing choice in a book? Is it a lot of if this, then that scenarios, or how are you going about that kind of from the structure standpoint?
The easiest way to do that is basically threefold. It's another beautiful question. Number one, you have to consider that each chapter is devoted to one of the main levers that you can pull. So we have a chapter on physical activity, a chapter on nutrition, a chapter on social connectedness, a chapter on sleep, and a chapter on truly living outside of your comfort zone. So, hey, I even say in the introduction of the book, choose which one of those chapters might enamor you and start there. So I tell people it's your choice. You can actually decide to read any one of them first or some of them never at all. They don't build on one another. So there's one thing. The second thing is every single chapter has an introductory level or a basic level of information. And then if you want to, you can go deeper dive where we get nerdy, scientific, with research, with citations. And there's citations with that throughout, but the language goes up. So then people can find themselves within that as well. Additionally, and this is really the primary answer to your question then, is you give people the education, the physiology about how it works, and then they determine if they identify with that and say, yeah, I believe in that. Oh, wow, that's simple. Or I didn't realize I could make a difference with this. So now they're more compelled to make a choice to adopt something just by saying, do this to help your sleep hygiene, and you could actually reduce your chances of diabetes. And you can choose to do that or not. And here's 7 different ways you can influence your sleep hygiene. So you give them the opportunities, you give them the physiology, and then you let them make the choice.
That's beautiful. And that just goes not against, but it's just very different than how most of this information is
That's
portrayed.
Right. Yeah.
And I think the clinicians listening, watching to this, like, take notes, right? Like, this is how I imagine you interact with your patients.
100%.
Right?
You think about it, if you say to your patient with chronic nonspecific low back pain, I'm going to have to get my hands on your low back and I'm going to have to mobilize you. And this is going to be the only way to get this done. I know what I'm doing. I've seen many people. You use all the vicarious experiences and you support it all in every way. But if they're not the person that wants manual therapy, either because, adverse childhood experiences, don't touch me, male, female, what are you trying to do? You're not giving me any options. You're forcing me into, you need manual therapy. We know that there's a lower efficacy in that treatment if we just say, you have no autonomy, I'm choosing for you, this is the direction, and here we go. It's no different than you and I going out for a 7-mile run and me saying, there's 2 options, and this is the route we're taking. You're like, shoot, I wish we would have taken that option. It's more scenic. You're going to get more psychologically and fatigued just by not having your choice included.
Man. And it's really like an art, right? Because we are professionals that can really guide people through this process to show what they really need to work on. And it may be a particular area, deficit, whatever it may be, but even like there's layers to the choices, right? Like we do our work and identify, and then we provide options for people to choose to achieve the goal that they have. But it's not like we're letting them completely control the ship. We're kind of guiding it in a way, but they're going to have some choice.
Yeah.
At multiple levels. Which
You're
makes
right.
it more of a relationship.
Yeah. We see this as clinicians. The easiest way to translate what I'm talking about in the book into the clinic is this person-specific level of autonomy, right? You have some people come in and they've paid their $40 copay and they're like, don't make me make any decisions. You better know exactly what I need to do because you're the professional. All right, that's a level of autonomy. That person wants to be educated, informed, treated, and you can sneak in some autonomy so they feel included. Hey, I've got a great session planned for you. We're going to do strength, balance, and endurance. Which one do you want to do first? Now they don't feel like, hey, you're making me make my whole treatment plan. So you've got that person. You've got the next person who prefers a little bit of collaborative autonomy, and you give them a few options, and you give them the opportunity to control the speed of the treadmill. Let me know. When you want to go up to 3.1, you just go ahead and tick it up right here. And they've got autonomy. And then you've got the third level of, you're not listening to me. This is exactly what I need. Yeah. It's a leg length discrepancy. I've got to have this done. So you got to watch and see what personality subtype you're dealing with, and then create your opportunity to collaborate with that person, infusing more or less of yourself according to their needs.
Yeah, that's beautiful in the clinic, and it's beautiful that you baked that framework into an evergreen resource like a book, right?
Yeah.
Like that's beautiful. So I think that to me really sticks out. So if I think like as a clinician of leveraging this book to help have some of these conversations, because a lot of folks that listen to this podcast or watch it, these topics are on their radar. They know they're important to our outcomes and to the health and quality of life of the person in front of us. It's not just the total knee replacement. It is the human, that this can help really complement a lot of those conversations. How would you recommend folks kind of go about some of those conversations related to some of the topics that you speak to in this book?
Yeah.
With or without the book in hand, right? Like let's say they do have the book or they don't have a book to be able to recommend. What are some big things that you think about when we as clinicians are speaking to health span when folks are coming to us for their back pain, right? Or neck pain?
Right. So number one, even without the book in hand in the clinic, clinicians can benefit by the basic layperson's level of language that I deliver that they can actually just reiterate back to their patients. Right. So if you're scared about what can I say, what should I say, what is factual in the realms that include nutrition, social connection, and potentially sleep, then now I've given you a way to operationalize your education to be delivered to your patients. Because Dustin, I couldn't have written this book 20 years ago. I would have felt like, well, physical therapists aren't supposed to talk about sleep or nutrition. Yeah. But the reality is, if we want to pull every lever to get every patient as good as they can be, and we have the amount of time that we have with them, we've got to be talking about this not in a manner that says, I'm an expert on all of this. It's that, just like I did in the book, I've coalesced this, I've digested it for you. Here's what the science says, because I am a scientist. And here is what you might be able to operationalize for yourself if this feels inherent with or consistent with your beliefs.
Yeah.
So that's what clinicians can do. It's already translated for you. Leverage it right back, and also have some confidence that a person with PT can actually write about these matters. So get some confidence in that.
Yeah, 100%. And we're highly qualified to speak to so many of these things. For listeners, just we mentioned some of the chapter topics on here. I want to read these off real quick, just so you're really aware of kind of where this goes, because we think health span and like sleep, nutrition, those quickly come to mind. But I'm just going to read this verbatim. Chapter 1 is the facts on aging, lifespan, and health span. Chapter 2 is on physical activity. Chapter 3, healthy options and portions, the science for fuel and fitness. Chapter 4 is on social health. 5 is on optimized wellness. 6, a comfortable amount of discomfort. 7, recognizing health disparities and disabilities. 8, leveraging the science of choice. And 9, real people, real stories, choosing works. And 10, fascinations for the future, to pull the go where there is no evidence. So, my gosh. So I think what's really, one in particular, and we mentioned this kind of on our email back and forth, is one thing that really sticks out to me when I think about some of the conversations I have with patients, with gym members as well, that is a little more challenging, is the value of discomfort, right? Like chapter 6, comfortable amount of discomfort, the health and wellness
it's one of the
novel
longest chapters in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, in the context of fitness, right? Like I'm at Stronger Life. It's a gym for folks over 55. We've had folks that have been members for 4 years at this point, right? Like it's taken a longer period of time, but these folks have seen the value of discomfort, over experiencing discomfort 3 to 4 times a week, over and over and over and over again. But man, when I think of like my experience in home health, this principle is still valuable, but the challenge of showing people and then really embracing that was more challenging. I'm curious to hear, like, that whole concept of discomfort. How have you been successful in instilling that in, let's say, patients that you may only work with for a short period of time, 4 6 weeks, whatever it may be? What does that look like if you even get to the point of having those conversations with folks in that type of scenario?
Yeah. The nice thing is that within the physical therapy clinic, we have the opportunity to give people a chance to experience what I like to call moments of unexpected success in therapy. I call it a must. You have to have a must in every session, moments of unexpected success in therapy. And it happens because we can ensure their safety while allowing them to do something that feels tightrope-ish, right? And it can be because we've got a gait belt on them. It can be because our hands are next to them. It can be because they're in a bodyweight support harness, whatever the case may be. Giving people the opportunity to say, I've got a little parachute for you here, so let's take some risk. Let's play. And obviously the value of play is massive right now. And let's not worry about exactly how you do, but let's just experiment to see if you can do, right? And so what happens from that is a couple of different things. Number one, motor control can be influenced to say, I didn't realize that was possible. I was able to get up from 22 inches with no physical assistance and no arm push. Now, the prefrontal cortex says to the internal capsule, says to the basal ganglia, says to the spinal cord, yeah, you can generate enough of this power. Go ahead and go for it on your own. So it permits us to do it. So we get neuroplasticity in the motor control. We also get dopamine. Wow, that was a surprising win. Then we get serotonin. That was a surprising win. This seems to be helping me. Let me do more of this. So you look at the psychological underpinnings, the nervous system reorganization underpinnings of actually pushing yourself to potentially do something. And we recall a couple of things that have to be said here. The power of a near miss may not have an equal in our existence. The power of a near miss. it causes people to come back and go for it again. Dustin, I'm hailing from Las Vegas, Nevada right now. I don't gamble at all. But if you were to pull a slot machine and it goes 7, 7, lemon, you'd be like, oh, it's so close. Let's try that again. That's what we want for our patients, right? We want the power of a near miss. They don't have to be protected and successful every single repetition. They need to actually push into something where it's, wow, I almost got that, and I'm surprised I was that close, right? It was a warning track dinger that I just hit off of Aroldis Chapman or Nolan Ryan. I think maybe next time I can hit even better. So
the near miss. So would that be different? Same topic, but when you're, let's say, choosing an intervention, right? Let's say, a couple weeks after the eval, and you're thinking about this must, right? Which was repeat that acronym for me.
Moments of unexpected success in therapy.
Moments of unexpected success in therapy. And so that we do want to create a successful scenario, right? But when we introduce it, are you thinking near miss? Like close enough, you're probably not going to get it, but you're close enough to see the hope in that, which will create the must and all of the lovely things that come as a result.
Yeah, because we make a mistake of thinking that dopamine's only delivered when we win. Dopamine is a success, a pursuit, a motivation, a novelty, and a win neuromodulator. It loves all of those things, right? And when your grandma's key lime pie tastes better than you expected, the movie was better than you thought it was going to be, the first date was so much better than you thought it was going to be, that's an enormity of dopamine that's delivered right there. That's what we want in our patient experiences where, gosh, that's your personal best on the Berg, and that's your personal best on your timed up and go, and you almost got better on your minimal chair height stand test or your 30-second sit to stand test. Gosh, I wonder if next time when we do a progress test, you're going to be able to beat that. Well, due to the Hawthorne effect, people get better when they're being evaluated or measured. Due to gamification, I didn't quite get my personal best on my 30-second sit to stand. That person doubles down on strength, and the next time they blow that score out of the water. That's what's seen in the book. That's what's seen in the clinic. That's what's being seen in my life. We pull all those together.
That's beautiful.
Dustin, I ran my first and what was going to be my only marathon in life in 2009, and I ran a 3:03. And I was
hold on. Your first marathon? 3:03.
First marathon. I was 40 years old. I was 40. That was my first marathon. And I said, that's all I'm doing because I'm a triathlete. I'm not doing more than one marathon. It's crazy. It's stupid. And so they said, well, you qualified for Boston. I said, okay, all right, fine. I'll go do Boston. So I get a 2:57 in 2010 at 41 years old in Boston. Then I'm starting to think, how fast can I run these? Now I get it's the near miss, right?
Yeah.
It's if I would have nearly missed getting to Boston qualification, I would have tried another one again. So it's addictive to anyone.
Yes. That's beautiful. And we can create that in the hospital, in home health, in the SNF, in outpatient, in the gym, just wherever you are, listener, viewer. These are principles, right? It's not only happening in one specific spot. It can be done in the context of our work, which is that's awesome. That was really.
And we have to just keep in mind that you don't have to have a competitive individual to leverage this principle, right? People will naturally either be motivated by loss aversion, invest in myself so that I don't lose cognition, lose strength, lose endurance, lose power, or invest in myself because I'm getting better and I actually see myself getting better. You don't have to have the most brilliantly motivated person in the world or competitive person to just be enamored by, I didn't know that I could do that. What else can I do?
Right. Yeah. We'll see that a lot here at Stronger Life, where we will have folks that come in that they aren't competitive. They don't necessarily have like a specific performance goal, but they've seen their current path and what that is likely going to lead to through experience of like taking care of a parent, for example, or a spouse, or seeing a friend, and they know they need to change. And then a few weeks go by, a month or two, and then they start to see things a little bit differently. I've seen a lot of folks kind of shift to like, well, yeah, what if, I've achieved this, and it's like a snowball effect.
It's so good that you bring that up, because you're not telling people to be type A, to be killer instinct. You're allowing them to gradually see themselves as capable, permit themselves to think optimistically, have enhanced expectancies, as we hear in the optimal theory of motor learning. But you're not coercing them to be like us. You're not trying to change their identity. You're actually understanding one key principle that I always say. People don't learn self-efficacy. You can't educate people into thinking better about themselves. What do? They earn self-efficacy. Yeah. You don't learn self-efficacy, you earn self-efficacy. So allow people to see the small health changes in any fraction or any function that we're talking about in the clinic or in their own lives, and let that accumulate.
That's beautiful. I love that. Earn self-efficacy. And that's so true. And I think, especially earlier on in my career, at least, and I think many folks may have experienced this as well, I definitely tried to educate people to improve self-efficacy, right? To feel like if I give them this knowledge and tell them these things, and therefore they will change. And I think we all learn a lot of hard lessons early on. That things typically don't work that way.
A simple change on that, rather than saying, you know what you need to do, you would say something like, would this be a good time for you to hear more about another way for you to improve? Yeah. What's another way I can improve? So they invite it in. Let them kick the door open rather than you knocking on it, trying to unlock it, beating it down.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So folks, lots of nuggets there. I just want to remind you that this book that we're also discussing, like it tangibly shows you what this could look like in written form to your patients. I want to now shift gears a little bit, because we've been talking a lot about the value of this book from like kind of the quote unquote public or patient standpoint, which as clinicians, it's always helpful, I think, for us to have a trusted resource that we can give people the choice to consume, whether it's a video, whether it's a book like this, blog post, whatever.
Sure.
I think I've heard you or seen you talk about this on social media as well, and we'll speak to this in our courses, that the value, a lot of our value to be able to influence other people related to some of these topics related to health span is to the extent that we embody them ourselves. That we want to be about it, right? We don't want to be the person that says one thing and then does another.
Yeah.
And that when we're authentically living this life, that we're also, educating and recommending to other people, your odds of influencing people go up dramatically.
Yeah.
So what would you say to clinicians why they should read this book from the personal standpoint, to improve their patients' lives, but also their lives?
Wow. Yeah, that is a very good question. And for me, when I recommend this book or I talk with this book about clinician, or talk to clinicians about this book, I want to give them several different things. I want to give them, number one, a very peaceful, permitted, welcomed opportunity in where they see, I'm not lecturing to you about this. I'm not telling you, be like Mike, and in this fashion. I want to empower them to see that their scope of practice is more comprehensive than what they might have imagined. Okay? Their ability to be able to reduce inflammation in many different fashions is more powerful than what they might have imagined. And I think it is important for individual clinicians to be able to understand and identify with different aspects of the books to be able to grab what they believe. Because, Dustin, if there's no other more powerful answer to your question than this, it is create your own identity. What you begin to speak to yourself about, how you declare yourself, is two things. Number one, it's powerful, and number two, it's malleable. I was just telling my son last night, in 1978, we got our first microwave. And I was so excited because I took this hard donut that was like a cinnamon sugar donut that was completely like 2 days old. I put it in the microwave, I warmed it up, and it was brand new. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. It's soft. And now, you know what? I'm a person who has an identity that I would say I never eat donuts. I don't like them. I'm not attracted by them. It's not hard for me to resist them. There's many things I don't eat, but it's not be like Mike. It's find your identity and understand that your identity, your past cravings, can easily be malleable. So just having you or your patient create identities. I'm an active person. I'm a healthy eater. I'm a socially connected person. Just speaking to yourself in those manners, Dustin, because it's malleable, can be just absolutely logarithmically powerful in how it can influence your course. I'm only an endurance athlete because of a very, very odd circumstance. I was a baseball player for my entire life. I got cut in the third cut of trials to get on to walk onto the University of Missouri's baseball team. Big 8, huge team, and they were filled up with middle infielders. I got cut. What am I now? I have no identity. I'm a freshman in college, and what am I? So I find myself doing a few miscellaneous things. I become a tennis player. I self-teach myself to play tennis. I'm decent at it, and I'm still finding myself. I have a neighbor 4 doors down who says he's going to do a triathlon. I'm like, a triathlon? I've seen that. I mean, all I know is Kona. This is, 1994 at the time. Like, a triathlon, I'm not going to go that long. And very quickly, I'll tell you, this person was very out of shape, but he says he's going to do a triathlon. Well, so I said, well, if he can do it, I can do it. So I start training alongside of him. I do my first triathlon in 1995, and I'm, 26 years old at the time, and I start to get addicted to this, and I start to declare myself as an endurance junkie. It's only because that person 4 doors down said he was going to do a triathlon that I started to pivot my identity. I want people to know there's no time in life that's too late to change your identity. Declare what you believe in. Declare what you are. Give your patient space to do the same. Maybe that's the most powerful answer to your question I can give you.
If that doesn't want to make you run through a brick wall, you need to check your pulse. And I think that speaks so much coming from, I think, someone like yourself who has experienced so much, changed your perspective, your identity around fitness, but then also, I'm sure, as a clinician, right? Like, there are probably so many things that you don't believe now or have changed your mind about, that just that whole concept of choosing your identity and it being malleable, and then ultimately influencing what your life looks like and those around you. I mean, I think you're such a great example of that in so many different facets of your life, or different buckets of your life.
Yeah. Thank
that's
you.
Beautiful. All right. I think that's a great spot to just leave with folks and to reflect on. So much in that conversation, right? So many clinical nuggets, but then that last bit, like declaring your identity. And I think there's a lot of things that we see the chapters of this book, right? Like, oh yeah, I really want to do this or be this or that. But to really soaking that in is not, I want to do that, but I am the person that does this. Right.
Exactly.
And starting there, and then just so much good can come from that in your personal life, but then professional life as well. So Mike, for those that are interested to learn more, to maybe grab the book, to check out some of your awesome content, Con Ed courses, where can people find you and the book?
Appreciate it. So I'll start with my website, MikeStuder.com, has a page devoted to the book. So that's easy to find there. If you want to buy the book, it's available on Amazon in paperback or Kindle. Just search The Brain That Chooses Itself, and then keep searching it, because I love the algorithm that develops when you keep searching it. Then the only other things about me are, you can certainly find me on Instagram at Mike Studer DPT, same handle for YouTube. And I've got so many courses on MedBridge, on Continued Ed.
That's awesome. Mike at, okay, folks, all of those links, the email, are going to be in the podcast description, and also the YouTube description as well. So lots of helpful resources. I'll personally vouch for, especially on your website, just so many really great blog posts where you're clearly working through a concept that often has not been ironed out yet in the literature, but something that you're seeing clinically, that is, it basically peels the curtain back into your brain, the beautiful brain of Mike Studer. And I've loved, reading reading a lot of those blog posts as well. So we'll have links to all that, folks. Hit Mike up, give him a follow on YouTube, Instagram, buy that book, give it to your patients. Lots of actionables today. So I appreciate you, Mike. I appreciate your work and your drive to impact the profession, but then all the people that we are trying to serve as well, that you do in a real practical manner, and just really grateful for that. So thank you for coming on. Amen to that. You've already achieved legend status, but it's just going to keep compiling. All right.